I'm Galvin.
And I'm Author Function.
And this is a Secret Boss podcast where we talk about the best auteurs in gaming, whether they deserve that title or not. And today we are talking about someone who definitely belongs in one of those two categories, Dan Ferguson. See, we've talked about IGF winners. We've talked about like Zizzy Award winners. We're going to talk about something that actually matters in the world of gaming here, okay? This time we're talking about a 2019 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award winner. Not winner, actually, finalist, but still close enough. Dan Ferguson is a guy who has been, let's just say, prolific in the gaming space over the past 30 years, though you may not have heard of some of his work. You might have heard of his game Elf Bowling, which was nominated as one of the worst video games of all time. But on top of that, thanks to the game Elf Bowling, he invented the concept of advergaming, which is a portmanteau of the word advertising and gaming. How the words connect, there's no pun or anything. It's just, they just squish the two words together into one word. Advergaming. But this is incredibly important because according to his metrics, his advertising method resulted in a 23% click-through rate versus the estimated average 0.5% of traditional banner ads. Very important for the medium of gaming. So today we're going to delve into this extreme pioneer of the medium and we're going to just see it through. We're going to see how this guy is a complete visionary, the Walt Disney of the medium. What do you think?
Yeah, we're not really talking about art unless we talk about the metrics. And if we talk about the click-through rates. If we're not talking about that, then it doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah, I mean, after all, art is about appealing to the audiences. If the audience doesn't like the art, then it's for nobody, basically. And the best way to calculate whether or not audiences like the art is by how much money it makes. It's obvious. Like, why would you watch a movie that they like made $2, huh? Doesn't make any sense. It's only the movies that people want to watch. It's only the games that people want to play. And what games do people want to play more than Keebler's Fudge Stripes Superman 2025 game? I don't think that's the actual name, but it's weird. They don't.
Yeah. Superman 2025, fine movie. It was good, but playing the advertisement game that came along with it. Now that's real art.
You know, we used to have like licensed PS2 games and those don't exist anymore. So technically this is basically the licensed Superman 2025 game, the Keebler's Fudge Stripes, mobile game. That's the closest we have to it.
And this one's going to be a little bit difficult to talk about because there are so many advertisement games and a lot of them are kind of hard to play and made for very specific contexts, but we're going to try anyway.
Dropping the pretense for a second, Dan Ferguson, I don't know if he even consider himself a game developer. He made Elf Bowling, made in quotes, because he didn't even develop it. He came up with the concept of it and he developed it with somebody who could actually program. I think his name is like Mike Belinsky, who has since gone on to do his own things. But yeah, he made Elf Bowling, which went viral, basically. It was supposed to advertise their, do you want to start here? Do you want to start at Elf Bowling?
Elf Bowling is a sort of executable game for the late 90s Windows computers. Yeah, 1999. It was a very small file size, 1 megabyte, so it could be shared through email to add to its virality. And it's a very simple game. It's a bowling game where you're playing as Santa and you bowl through some elves that are shaped like a bowling alley and bowling pins. And the context behind the story of the game, if you can call it that, is that these elves are striking on Christmas Eve, and Santa has to rough them up and union bust. So he rolls the ball into these elves to, fuck them up, I guess. It's a very simple mechanic. Like, you probably know the rules of bowling. You throw a ball and hit the pins. But this is done through like a single click and timing. So there is sort of a blinking light across several different latitudes on the bowling alley. And once you click it, then the light will stop and you will throw the ball where the light is. So you want to throw the ball in the middle because that's how bowling works. And it's a very simple game that anyone can play and understand, which is very important for an advertisement game because you want to get to as many people as you can. And it is a test of skill. It gives feedback that can be enjoyable. You're seeing the pins fall. So it effectively and quickly does what games are quote unquote supposed to do. Have fun and master a skill. But it is done in the context of advertising their advertising company and getting this game played by as many people as possible.
Do you know, to be clear, do you know what this is advertising, what the company does that this game is advertising?
Yeah, I mean, I think now you're making me doubt myself, but it's like a company that was made to like create viral games to advertise, right? Or maybe that was their mission statement afterward.
No, it was only for media solutions. So the company was called Endstorm, and it was like we could basically code anything you want to. You want. We can code a cool website for you. We can code. It's contractual work basically, tech wise, for like flashy looking things, not necessarily advertisement. Like they weren't specifically going after games to advertise it. It was only after Elf Bowling, only after that blew up, that they were like, maybe let's pivot to other games specifically. But initially, they were just like tech people ready for open for anything, basically. And Ferguson came up with this idea, Elf Bowling, to kind of like propagate it, which I think brings me to the main reason why I think Elf Bowling is popular, because I don't think it's just that it was under 1 megabyte. I feel like there has to be more to it than that. I think this starts to highlight like Ferguson's early work, which is all denoted by, let's just say, very edgy content. The Elf Bowling is a game about being crass to Christmas characters, basically. A lot of random things can happen while you're playing Elf Bowling, like the little things that grab the pins, the elves are the pins. It grabs one of them and it rips their head off. Sometimes when you miss, they all turn around and they pull down their pants and show you their ass, and they go, "Who's your daddy?" And other times they say "Elf, Elf Baby," which is it's a pop cultural reference to the song "Ice, Ice Baby" by Vanilla Ice. But instead of the word ice, they replaced it with the word elf because they're elves. So it was this kind of humor that led to Elf Bowling getting very, very popular. And it was this kind of like outrageousness that I think would propagate the future games. But this is only just the beginning. Endstorm marketed themselves as these very, very edgy, like new, cutting edge, young tech people who are hungry for anything. And like a lot of these companies, they lasted 1 year and then they were immediately sold and shut down. But that would move on to the next frontier, which would be a lot better. Any other thoughts about Elf Bowling?
It is less thoughts and more feelings. I think another reason why it's popular is that it's kind of like raunchy in a way that you can show your mom. Like it's. I compare them to Minions a lot. They have like a high pitched voice, so they're like kind of ugly cute, I guess. And the violence to them is like comical, and while it can be graphic, like there's a decapitation scene, it is cartoony enough where it is both edgy but also approachable, which is a pretty interesting line to draw.
Yeah, I should note that they were kind of edgier in their earlier games because technically Elf Bowling was not actually their first game. Dan Ferguson worked with Mike Belinsky on earlier games like Good Willie Hunting, which is another string that we'll see throughout his work. Good Willie Hunting is referring to Bill Clinton. It is a game where I think it's like a duck hunt game where you're hunting Bill Clinton. And this is after the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So this is like commenting on like popular events in the jib-jabby political satire kind of way. And the one after that is Frogapult, which is a game where you have to catapult a frog onto a target. But the joke was whenever you missed, the frog would die in horrible ways. Like they would fall into the water and be torn apart by gators or piranhas. Or there's also just like casually a wall of knives. So if you fling it too far, it gets impaled on the knife and there's like blood everywhere. So this is like Newground Puber type stuff. And I think over the years, obviously you can see him soften up as time goes on, but you kind of see him walk a line between edgy and safe.
And these were also like game advertisements for the company, right?
Yeah, for Endstorm. Although I think they said Frogapult. He said Frogapult on his site was developed for fun, although honestly, I don't believe him. I think that was his first attempt.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is interesting about these advert games is that the credits and developers are like kind of put front and center after you beat Elf Bowling. Like once you beat the game, you can like click on these elves, like, oh, click on me, and then you get to see the developers and who was working on it. And they each have their own little cute thing to say, which I think is kind of like sweet, but it's also like very unique for an advertisement where they usually don't have that kind of authorship to like credit things. Like how often do you turn on the TV and you see a commercial and you get to see like the credits of who the key grip was or whatever? And I think that's really unique for these early games. And as time will get on, it's a little bit more difficult to figure out what exactly Ferguson's role in these advert games are, because he was like leading these people through the company, but how direct his involvement was is kind of blurry to me. I couldn't like find any like strict credits like, oh, this person worked on this. It's kind of obscuring that in order to uplift the brand that is trying to show instead of the people who made it.
Yeah, I mean, Elf Bowling, I think, showed the portraits of the people working on the game because it was advertising the company. It was advertising these people who were able to be hired for work. And that's why it was showing their faces. Meanwhile, 2015 on, a lot of the things on Dan Ferguson's website, which must be emphasized if you haven't seen the website, there is a lot of stuff on it. Everything after 2015 was part of Groove Jones, which is a company that he co-founded that proposed like AR and VR solutions, which are basically average games, but fluffier and dressed up and stuff. The thing is, he co-founded this company, which is very big, and they develop a lot of stuff. I mean, like a lot of the stuff on his profile could be stuff that he didn't even really touch or like direct or have any say in at all. He was just the co-founder of the company who developed them and just put it on his profile because he could. It might be a little harder to look into authorship there, but you know, art prevails. We'll always find a way through. Isn't that right, Offer?
Yeah. So he's saying that he made these games, so we're gonna approach this as if
they're
he
on
made
his
these
website.
games, 'cause
they're on his website.
like, is anyone else gonna take credit for this? Is anyone else going to want to know that they helped make superhero matching with Keebler and WebAR game for Superman 2025?
Yeah.
Where you get to go open virtual cookie boxes, take out Keebler cookies. Everyone needs to know Dan Ferguson made that, apparently. And the great thing is that he also made another game where you can take a picture of yourself and then use AI generation to turn yourself into a Keebler elf, in case you really want to do that.
Kind of like
right there.
like the picture of the staff photo at the end of Elf Bowling showing themselves. It was like a creative way of showing their faces, like the AI generation thing, you know? See, now we're starting to connect the dots. Now we're really starting to develop this full picture.
It really is the future. Oh my God. I have to say, this is the most difficult episode. Because like, what do I say about these things? Besides dismissing them, what am I going to tell people? Like, am I going to recommend any of this? No, I'm not.
Now, am I going to recommend any of this? You'll just have to wait until the end of the episode to find out. That being said, however, I think we should give it our best shot because it is a secret boss, and it's our job to try and find the arterial connection within the fabric of the game. So I think we should do our best to
we're gonna do it. We're gonna find a way.
Yeah, after Endstorm was sold, this is like a year after, they made Elf Bowling 2. Although actually, no, I did play Elf Bowling 2. That one's really fucked up because that one's actually just like a shuffleboard kind of game. So it's not even bowling anymore. It's like a completely, they threw it out the window, basically. They
false
ruined the
advertising.
Franchise. Exactly. How dare you as an advertising man do false advertising for your game Elf Bowling 2? It's disgusting to me. And it's only like, it's like a villain backstory for the rest of the stuff that would come afterwards. But yeah, after Elf Bowling, Endstorm was sold very, very quickly. And he soon decided to start another company with, I think, very, very similar people from Endstorm. It was called Blockdot. And well, it's Blockdot and Coolbox. It should be noted here that Coolbox is spelled Kewl box because it was 2006. Blockdot and Coolbox were basically the same company as far as I can tell, but Blockdot was meant for more professional kind of stuff. Like they did games for Bing, basically, when Bing was showing games like on their webpage or on their front page. And Coolbox was their own kind of flash game site, kind of like Addicting Games, where they would do games for movies, but these are like cruder games and also stuff like political satires. Like there's one called Furious George, which is a Qbert knockoff, but you're playing as George W. Bush and you're navigating all your different political enemies. So the first level is called Little Trouble in Big China, and you're trying to navigate the Chinese chairman and the mob who are mad at you. And the episodes, the level starts with when you hit play, there's a gong and then it does the da 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 da. So like this is like really, really, really subtle, you know, political allegory and criticism here that we're going for. And then after that, he made Groove Jones. There's really kind of like a big gap here. There's like 2006, it's Coolbox and Blockdot, and in 2015, it's Groove Jones. Ever since then, he's been doing Groove Jones, which is like really, really, how would you describe it? Like really, really slick, modern design, kind of bullshit Web 3.0, AR, VR stuff. He won a lot of awards for it, but it's also just like the kind of extremely soulless advertising, no heart in it, advertising that you would see in the 2010s. I don't know. How would you describe it?
I wouldn't describe it, but I'm going to try anyway.
You have to try.
I think a lot of this post 2015 work is like there isn't really anything here but this technology like VR and AI. These games aren't made to advertise, or they're not made for people to play. They are made to be interesting to marketing executives who will approve the project and buy it from them. So they have to be using technology in novel ways. I was going to say new and interesting, but that's not true. Novel ways. It was like, oh, this is like a game, but you're using VR. So you're a beer company, you're Corona. Well, we're going to use VR to play golf, and that's going to be your game advertisement, because we're going to have a booth set up somewhere and there's going to be like beer in the background, which you can't see because you're wearing VR, but people are going to play golf in your Corona booth and they'll be like, oh wow, I want to buy some Corona beer or whatever is the mentality, I guess. I feel there are some very effective advertising games that will like get people to want to buy your products, but these I feel like are made to sell to marketing executives. Like they're not like going to be distributed on a very like wide scale, because how many people are going to have VR equipment? Like if you're making advertisement games, those are almost always going to be targeted towards children and towards like the older demographic on social media sites like Facebook. But all children are really the main factor. That's why a lot of the more gamey games are going to be about food, because food is something that you can very effectively market towards children and for like children's media properties. There's a SpongeBob SquarePants Go Fish game. He works on a lot of Lego games. I played a lot of Lego games when I was growing up. And so it's like, those games are more like gamey. There are some Pac-Man ripoffs. There are Match 3 ripoffs. There are, I mean, okay. I was going to say that maybe ripoff is uncharitable, but I think I'm comfortable being uncharitable in this episode.
That's so rude,
but
man.
Yeah.
You're so rude to our authors. You hate authors, man.
I do. So yeah, a lot of the games that are marketing towards children are like more gamey, whereas the ones that are marketed towards a broader or adult demographic are going to be more focused on something like sports, where your understanding of the game is kind of dependent on your knowledge of the world instead of your knowledge of video games in particular. So honestly, unless we want to get into the specific of games, that's about all I have to say about his design ethic.
Well, I think there is something to point out here, and it's that if you really take a look at when these games were developed, I would say that I think most of the kiddie games, or like games that were designed to be actually played by like consumers or meant for food and stuff like that, excepting the Keebler ones, which are actually more recent, most of them are in the 2010s or like his earlier period, the first half of his period. Meanwhile, the second half of his period is so fascinating. Like I don't even really know how to describe it. I can give you an example though to talk about what I mean. I want to talk about Invesco QQQ Race for Innovation 2025, because this exemplifies what I think is really, really weird. What do you like the weird work he's doing at Groove Jones? We're venturing into like the installation art era of the video gaming medium. You know how some experimental artists will make like interactive art and that can be considered like video games? Well, Dan Ferguson is like one of these people, because he goes to conventions and he showcases stuff like Invesco QQQ Race for Innovation. What's that? Well, Invesco is an investing company and they designed a racing game for the company. And this is like a racing game made in Unity with its own cars, its own power-ups and stuff like that. But it's designed specifically just to be shown at this one convention and meant to promote Invesco. It's not like a commercial game. You can't buy it anywhere. You can't play this game anymore. It's defunct forever. It served its purpose. It's like an exhibit just going out of fashion. You can't go back to it anymore. And this game was shown on their portfolio website, made to get like marketing awards, like you said. It was said to marketing executives, maybe like, I don't know, 1,000 people played it and it's gone forever. And this is just like half the stuff they're doing now at Groove Jones. It's not meant for consumers. It's meant for people who already know about the company, but they can be like, that company did a racing game. Does this help profits? I don't know. I have no idea, but Apparently, they just keep doing it, and somehow it keeps working. Other examples? Oh yeah, the Salesforce Harmonizer. I love this one. This is a setup with like multiple wires. This is for Salesforce. We all know Salesforce, right? The company. There are a bunch of knobs set up on this this display, and you turn them, and if you turn these knobs at the right angle, they produce like the same amount of music. And all these knobs, they represent different parts of Salesforce's company. And these are all like pillars. All these knobs are pillars. And when they're at the right size, just like Salesforce does, they harmonize with each other. And this is a game you can't play anymore. Like 100 people played it and then they shut it down and it's on their website. And that's it. The purpose of this game is that it exists. And it's not to play it. It's that it exists and people thought of it and you can read about it and it's gone.
That sounds like a parody of like sort of, I want to say like mission statement company exhibits where it's just like showing like, oh, here's all the stuff we're gonna do, and here's some abstract animation to see like, oh, this is this stuff that we believe in. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Who cares?
What the fuck does a racing game have to do with Invesco? What does any of this have to do with anything? It's just stuff made to exist. And hey, if people were getting jobs, I mean, get your bag, I guess. But like, what is this? Like, how does this contribute anything to anything? Like, not even on a profit scale do I understand it. I don't know. It blows my mind that this exists, I guess. I don't understand.
And some of these are like kind of reskins. One of them I think I counted 3 flight simulators where you play as a bird through VR and you sort of like raise your hands to the side and do flapping motions to flap your wings as a bird. And it's like the same model being transferred into different places for different advertisements. One was for a museum to show like the sort of nature and fauna in the area. And the other was for a cruise line where you can cruise in, I think, Alaska, and you play as the eagle, and you can also see the great big cruise ship in the background as you're flying around. So this is like an exhibit made for when you're on a cruise ship advertising the cruise ship. I think that's so funny. I think that this is kind of what it's going to be most useful for in the advertising company, is to have like small exhibits to sort of retain customers and show how cool your company is, that you're doing these fun little simulation things. And it's a unique position to be like the more quote unquote forward thinking tech advertising space. But I think that it's going to be very limited instead of being widespread like Alf Bowling was.
Yeah, the days are long gone. He had his one shot. He's a one-hit wonder and he's gone forever. No, I think he's making enough money. It's probably fine. Yeah. But like a lot of these, are internal. One of my favorite ones is WalkStem. This is something we did for Capital One. Basically, these are for college students, which would visit Capital One, and then it would be like advertising if you want to work for their company as a STEM person. And it would basically be like a scavenger hunt where you walk around the headquarters of Capital One, and there would be different AR things set up, and you would be able to scan it with your phone. And you could do all sorts of fun exercises that teach you about STEM, that the people who are there to sign up for Capital One STEM jobs. So you would go there and you would open your phone and they would be like, did you know STEM people, they measure things sometimes. So I want you to measure this wooden plank using AR. And let's be clear here. These are people who are at Capital One to register for STEM jobs. So they already know what STEM is and that it entails having to measure things sometimes. So it's teaching people who are in STEM about what STEM is on like a K-12 abstract level through AR. And I think this is like the furthest this kind of thing can go, basically. It's internal use. There are like external uses. I mean, like I would say some of these are for end users. Like, I mean, the Keebler thing is the thing I point to the most, where you get a box of Fudge stripes from Keebler. It's also promoting the Superman game, and you can play the AR game. There's also, my personal favorite is one, the 3M AR game. 3M is double-sided tape, basically, and you can put like hooks on it, right? So they made this app called the 3M AR hook app. I don't think that's the actual name, but you could download it, and it would basically be like, you can use 3M to put hooks up on your wall, and you could put things on the wall so you can visualize it. How it would look like on your wall with the 3M tape and the hook. The problem with this is that when you open the app, it doesn't actually scale anything to size. So it's basically just like, it's not showing you how big the thing will actually look like on your wall, since you could scale it up and down or whatever. So it's basically just projecting an image of something hanging off of a fake 3M hook on your wall. And this is meant to promote their product. Yeah, that's about it. It doesn't really do anything other than project an image of a hook on the wall. So you could be like, maybe a hook could go there. That's it. That's the entire product.
So some of these games have very specific use cases that are, let's say, unique. One of these I thought was most interesting was Rewards Adventure, an online virtual game experience.
Yes, I was going to bring this up. This is insane. This one actually broke my brain. Like, I didn't know what to even say about this.
So the premise for this game was that apparently there are some places that have reward structures where you can like have a certain amount of time to like pick up physical products inside your store, and like within a certain amount of time, if you're a really good salesman, you could like take these items as much as you can carry and stuff. And this is like a virtual version of that, but not really. It's like taking place on a tropical island where you have a low poly avatar character where you're doing the same thing where you're supposed to be running in virtual reality and grabbing lots of things. And I think it's like peak, we're turning this thing into virtual reality when there's no good reason to do so, because you're supposed to be grabbing all these rewards. It doesn't have that like physical feeling of like, this is an object I'm going to have. It's like, oh, here's a digital thing in this virtual world. It doesn't feel real. And you can't have like your employees watching or anything. So like, what are you going to do here?
And also, you don't get the items. It just shows you a list of what you got at the end. And it's like Samsung TV, Fitbit, but you don't actually get the items in like the real exhibit. So you're just playing the game to get a list of things that you could possibly get if you did the actual running and getting all the products thing. It's a game where your reward is the idea of playing the actual game in real life, which you probably statistically won't play. So it's an advertisement for something that was already an advertisement for employees to work harder so they can get to that the first advertisement.
Yeah, this is a game that is being sold to companies so they can give a reward structure towards their employees to not actually give them something, but make them feel like they're getting something. And I don't think that would be very successful, at least in my experience.
It's a simulation of an advertisement, which is insane. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen.
There's so many layers to this one game. And I really want to see this, how it would be implemented in a company's like sort of reward structures and how effective it would be, because I can't imagine it going over well.
Who is this for? Who is this for? I don't understand why this exists.
Again, it's for executives. These are being sold to executives.
How does this lead to profit? People. How does this lead to any kind of I want you to draw like a cause and effect line from here to there, because it still doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how somebody could look at this and be like, I'm activated. I'm going to give more money to BI International or whatever the company is called. I don't know.
But like, he's had like 3 companies now, right? I have to imagine that he's like probably one of the most financially successful people that we've covered on this podcast.
No, I mean, I know that it works. I just don't understand how. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't feel like this exists in our realm of reality, even though, I don't know, I'm looking at it, I guess. I don't know. None of this this is like one of the most disorienting episodes behind the Christine Love episode. This is like transgressive art. You have to understand. This is harmful to me. I don't know. What else do you want to talk about? Is there anything here?
I don't know. Are there any like specific WebMD games? He made some games where WebMD that are just like, I think these are like tile sliding games. There's a few different tile sliding and like kind of match 3-ish kind of games where you're like regular games, but there's trivia about different illnesses. Mostly like Crohn's disease and other things.
It's
various ailments.
It's just Bejeweled, but there's like a ticker at the top that's like, you should sit up straighter. Did you know sitting up straighter will make your back feel better? In case you were wanted to play Bejeweled, but also be healthier, you know?
This is in like 2021. And I'm fairly sure there's a consensus within the research that this kind of like sort of pop-ups of information is not effective in like edutainment in general is often seen as not very effective, but this is especially not effective because your gameplay is focused on like different ways of thinking than interpreting information. You're focused on matching up all these different symbols and not actually considering the education and the ailments that they're trying to teach you. You're focused on the game. It's like going to a college lecture, right? And during that time, you're playing Bejeweled. You're not listening to the fucking lecture. You're playing Bejeweled.
Yeah. Just want to be clear here. I don't think this was 2015. If you look at the website, you'll see that all of this stuff is out of order. And also it's like constantly referring to stuff that was in the 2000s. So he only made this website recently, but he dated some of them and he didn't date others. So there's like a Land of the Lost mobile game that's given like a 2015 date. That movie came out in like 2008, I think, 2009.
Right.
So his stuff is all out of date, out of order. I think the WebMD stuff, I don't know, it just looks 2000s to me. There is just like a look of like the Flash games from the 2000s that is just something very specific. I don't know. That's just my hunch, I guess.
And the sad thing is that like this is the only kind of archive about these games there is. There's not like these games aren't on fucking Moby Games or anything where you could like list through all the people that worked on it and when they came out and all the information about it. It's just a bunch of ads that nobody has bothered to catalog, which is sad in its own way.
There is technically one preservation effort. If you go on archive.org, you'll see a huge archive of block dot games from the 2000s. Archiving stuff like, I don't know, like all these like really shitty like Eminem, like flinging games meant to promote Eminem and stuff like that. But also, it's noted in the description of that archive page, it was uploaded by Dan Ferguson. So he's the only one trying to preserve this stuff. He's the only archiver of this work.
Honestly, I love that. It's his legacy.
Yeah, he's proud of it, which I think is good. I think it's good to be proud of your work. One game I wanted to play so badly. Oh my gosh, this was crazy to me. I wanted to play, it's this thing called Klondike Bar Khaki Pants Pete, The Adventure of Khaki Pants Pete for Klondike Bars. It wasn't preserved, so I wasn't able to play it, but this is like 2008, and apparently Klondike Bar, this is like an ice cream bar, Klondike Bars. They had this like really macho like marketing overhaul, so they wanted to really promote Klondike Bars for like dudes. So they made this website, or whatever Dan Ferguson's company made this website, where you walk into this den and it's like, welcome to the man cave. Feel free to get yourself a Klondike bar and take a bite. And you could play this game called Khaki Pants Pete, which is an 8-bit interactive fiction choose your own adventure game where you play as a guy who moves to the suburbs and has been kind of neutered by his girlfriend, basically. He's had his masculinity taken away because he lives in the suburbs with his girlfriend. And his bros, all his frat friends, they come back, and it's about him trying to rediscover his manhood and fight back against his girlfriend. And this is all done under the space of Klondike bars. He gets the power to take back his masculinity with Klondike bars, and this game is completely unarchived now. You can't play any instance of it. The only evidence that it exists is a 1-minute trailer and the review of it online that says it's extremely sexist and misogynistic. Was not able to play this game. I really wanted to play this game because they were like, okay.
But is it as misogynistic as Cracker Cleavage, which is a game where you see a close-up of skin and you have to figure out if it's a butt crack or boobs?
Yes, man, yes.
Made as an advertisement for the movie that very much exists, Still Waiting.
You love the movie Waiting. There's a sequel, Still Waiting. Everyone loves Waiting.
This is the best gameography we've ever seen.
Yeah. There's also one where you're like flicking bottle caps off of a girl's thong, and this is like shuffleboard, but with a girl's thong, and this is for like, they did a lot of like frat movies, like Will Ferrell frat movies, like old school and stuff like that. I don't know. This is like what I'm saying, what I said before. With the crass humor of elf bowling, it would only be a matter of time before we got to stuff like this. You know, there's a lot of stuff in Coolbox also about like beating up your tax manager. There's a game where you have 15 seconds to beat up a tax manager as fast as possible by clicking the mouse. Or there's another one where you flick rubber bands at like your bosses and they yell at you. Stuff like that. It was really appealing to like the machismo of frustrated workers. It was like the art of the working class, meant to push them up and propel them to rightfully incite class rage and class warfare. But yeah, it didn't really turn out all that well. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? I feel like this entire episode.
I didn't want to talk about anything. I didn't want to do this episode. I did want to do this episode when you first announced it, but actually, when I actually
listen
saw
to the last episode,
games,
he's so fucking excited.
I was so happy. I thought it was going to be so great, but then I saw the games and like, oh my god, I don't want to touch this. I don't want to think about this. I'm not happy that this exists.
It's all fun and games until you actually have to play the games.
It is so hard for me to like just to think that a piece of art should not exist. I revel in all kinds of different art, but this is when I have to draw the line. Like, oh my god, I hate this. I hate this so much. Why is this here? Who would make this?
There has to be at least one.
Our way of life.
There has to be like one kid who played like SpongeBob SquarePants Go Fish, and he was like, he hadn't heard of Go Fish or SpongeBob, and he was like, you can make games like this, and he grew up and he became like a game developer. And that guy, Toby Fox.
I played so many Lego games as a kid. I loved them so much, and I would be so happy. They'd be some of my favorite games when I was playing them. But if I look back on it, I think, wow, it's pretty fucked up that they made a bunch of free games for kids because they don't have any other option, and they're making these games or to sell them products. And I would be very mad and not let my kids play those games if I was there.
I would say, I will say, I do think I played one of these games during my childhood. It was the Lego Power Movers or Lego Power Miners. It was like a Frogger clone, basically. I forgot what it was called, but it's basically Frogger, but you're jumping on 2x4s and you're like a Lego guy. And I remember playing that, and I haven't played Frogger, like the original, since. So you could say it basically fundamentally changed my knowledge of video games. I never played Frogger, so, you know, I didn't get it firsthand. This is like game history being passed down. And you're going to try and deny that? You're going to try and deny the artistry of this?
Yeah.
You hate history, man. You hate games history. You're anti-art. You don't want the history of our predecessors to be passed down to the next generations because you're fucked up. You're the antagonist this episode.
If you're not willing to accept commercialism in art, you hate art. If you're not willing to accept AI art, you're not believing in art. You gotta take these things on. It's the future, man.
Who's going to play Frogger 50 years from now? There's not AI Frogger, okay? Generative AI Frogger. You're going to deny
presented to you by
like
Mentos.
That? Yes, Mentos generative AI Frogger.
Looking forward to the future.
It would be so awesome if 50 years from now, like the most popular game was like Lockheed Martin Super Mario Brothers. Like you play as Mr. Martin and you're in a generative AI adventure.
One of the early advertisement games is Super Mario Brothers 2 as Doki Doki Panic, so anything is possible.
True. And you want to try and call people shills when Shigeru Miyamoto, your beloved Miyamoto, was doing this from the start. Everyone's a hack.
Yes, I do.
Here's another good one.
I don't care.
The KFC grilled chicken dance game. They debuted grilled chicken, and the advertising campaign was grilled chicken makes you want to dance. So they would show people dancing. So this is basically a DDR clone where you use arrow keys and it shows the videos of people dancing while holding grilled chicken. And that's the entire game. Just existentially terrifying. I really cannot exaggerate enough how awful I felt looking at this guy who he's probably a millionaire by now and being like, this guy's entire life is spent on this. He spent his entire life doing stuff like this. Like, this is like an entire person's life we're looking at.
Like I said, I think he's probably the most financially successful author I've covered on this podcast.
But do you think his soul is dead inside? Do you think he just gets home and he's like, what am I doing? Do you think he scrolls through his website and he's like,
I don't think so. I don't think there's any regret here. Like, at a certain point, like, you've had enough experience making games. If you want to make a, like, more passion project kind of thing, you would do it at some point. But it seems to me that there doesn't have one. There doesn't exist. It's just these advertisement games over and over again for over 25 years.
It should be noted that while researching this episode, I looked up Dan Ferguson, game developer, and I found a bunch of other game developers named Dan Ferguson. And for a second, I thought it was the one we were talking about. And he had done his own passion projects. He did not. He did not. These were other developers called Dan Ferguson. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, he probably has. I mean, he's had a very exciting life. There's an amazing anecdote about him making the Revenge. What's the third game? What's the third Star Wars movie called? I didn't actually watch it.
Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith, yeah. He did the games for that. He did 5 Flash games for that in one package. And apparently, he and his team were invited to Skywalker Ranch, and they got to read the script before the movie came out of the Revenge of the Sith movie. So they got behind-the-scenes access into the biggest blockbuster of the year so they can make Flash games. And then you look at the Flash games they made, and it's like dog shit. It's just the worst, basically. It's like for hire work that you would expect from a 2002 Flash game enthusiast. It was crazy the break they got.
Or it's probably something like Frogger or something with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Basically, it probably was, yeah. And then they got... Did you see the Conan O'Brien? They got on Conan O'Brien, the late night show with one of their games. And it's just like a Skittles game, basically. A Skittles Flash game. And Conan O'Brien did a riff on it. So they appeared on television. I don't know. This is the 2000s were so weird because you could just basically get anybody to do anything and you would be like famous. I don't know.
I guess the early web games that we see as like kind of old and of their time or really like revolutionary. I think is another like step in his, I'm going to use tech to sell this kind of game. It's going to be this whole new thing. And because I guess it's just similar to the AI and VR stuff in that way. Weird to think back on.
I mean, the thing about this though is that advergaming was supposedly something Dan Ferguson invented himself. He was the guy who came up with all this, the idea of using advertising games in general. So everybody else who followed after him is basically just trying to copy him. So he's like supposedly the pioneer, the guy who brought all this together. And then you see what he was making in like 2008, and it was like flick the M into this guy's mouth, and it was like advertising M&Ms. And it looks like shit. I mean, it looks worse than the average itch game.
That may be how he presents himself, and maybe he kind of popularized it in a way that others didn't. But there were definitely advertisement games before.
Yeah,
this like I mentioned, Doki Doki Panic and like
Ronald
McDonald's thing. Yeah,
but he was specifically talking about like Flash games and stuff like that, like putting it on the web and getting people to play it on the web for like free games for viral marketing. I mean, you could argue, I don't know how we don't have a time traveling machine, but we could argue that like Doritos Crash Course on the Xbox wouldn't exist without this guy. Which is a big claim to fame, Doritos Crash Course. Everyone loves Doritos Crash Course, but I don't know. If you want to dream bigger, you can say like Sneak King wouldn't exist without this guy. That's like a whole other echelon up there because you have to buy that game, I think. But yeah, this guy, I don't know. He is, at least in my eyes, the face of a weird movement that happened in the 2000s where people were like, let's make Burger King video games and put them on the internet for free. And somehow people played these. I don't know. And then it just kind of disappeared, I feel like. Do you think it disappeared?
I mean, clearly he's still making games, but I think that
are they popular though? I don't think anyone cares about these.
Okay, the ones on Roblox are popular. Kids will play all kinds of free games that they're being advertised to on Roblox, as long as it's on that platform. Roblox is its own weird subculture, though.
They're like McDonald's Roblox games?
I mean, I don't know McDonald's specifically, but there are all kinds of like advertisements for like stuff directed towards kids on Roblox. It's a whole big thing.
You should not be telling me this because I'm going to start doing another episode.
God. Have to make a fucking Roblox account. I played Roblox over not over 20 years ago, but about 20 years ago. I can't believe it's even bigger than it was back then, and people are still playing it, and it's even worse, and I hate it, and I don't want to play Roblox. God, what a world we live in. This is the most depressing episode, even though it's so fucking funny that these exist.
And it also happened in like 2008. This is not even like indicative of our times now. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at his games and not see like, I don't know, Ronald McDonald in Fortnite or whatever. I feel like you could draw a line from that to this. I don't know. I wouldn't say he was the sole proprietor of all this, but like I feel like he did some contribution onto the pile that led to wherever we are now.
I guess. I think this is a good lead-in to recommendations.
You're gonna I have a whole other hour. I have a whole other hour of things I want to say about this man.
Okay, go for it. I'm calling your bluff. If you can say a whole nother hour about these games, I will be impressed.
And we're done. Okay, it should be noted that I just did talk for another hour. He just cut all of it out. All right, let's go to recommendations now.
Okay, sure you did.
What recommendations do you have for this episode, Arthur?
Well, I'm going to recommend fucking none of that. I will recommend going through Dan Ferguson's project listing because it is fascinating to look through these and see what the fuck is being made and what is being sold to advertisers and like what this whole kind of subgenre is. If you want to have like a look at that, I think it is fascinating, but also again kind of depressing. Also, I want to say Elf Bowling not that bad. I think that the remakes are what are considered like the worst ones, but I played the original one. It was fine. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I think it's the same experience as when I watched like Suicide Squad. It's like, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it's still pretty bad.
High praise, high praise.
High praise. How about you?
Listeners, it may shock you and sadden you to say this, but I also don't think I would recommend, I don't think I would recommend any of these games. Unfortunately, I don't think you should play any of these games. I would recommend opening his website and also just like sitting alone in a room, possibly in the dark, and just reading aloud the titles of every game to yourself out loud in the dark room, just like to yourself with nobody listening. I think it would be good exercise for understanding where we are today and how we got here. But yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't even recommend Elf Bowling. It's not a very good game. Not the worst game of all time, not a very good game.
Yeah. And I just hovered my mouse over a random thing, just Modelo Mr. Cartoon Dia de los Muertos Web AR. Like, yeah, this is just reading these titles is something.
Yes.
God.
And also, if somebody's listening to this episode, can they play the Rewards Island adventure game and then work hard enough to actually get accepted into the real Islands adventure game and tell us how like realistic it was compared to the video game? Can somebody do that? Somebody please be like the top 1% performing in their company so they can get invited to that sweepstakes and win like a TV or whatever.
I did not know that was even a thing, but
that's what it was advertising.
I don't understand any of this. It doesn't make sense. I hate it.
I mean, the thing is, I really walked into this episode trying to understand marketing more, and I feel like I walked out of it understanding it less because I don't understand how any of this leads to anything. It just feels somehow more pointless than actual art.
It's like marketing the idea of a marketing campaign.
Like Oscar Wilde advertised the idea of art as pointless, but this is like more pointless than that somehow. And I don't understand how we got here.
I think I would respect it more if it was pointless, but sadly it's to make money, and I hate it.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. So it may shock you, but I actually was the one who recommended Dan Ferguson this episode. So now it's Offer's turn to recommend this next one. So what marketing executive are we doing next, Offer?
We're still working on the Sylvie is our longer term one. We're probably going to do Sylvie after this next one. But for my next recommendation, I was thinking that we covered the early Donkey Kong games with Shigeru Miyamoto. And I was like, we should look at some of the more recent Donkey Kong games. And I'm not talking about Donkey Kong Country, because that's a spin-off. I want to talk about Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the most recent Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, like Mario vs. Donkey Kong Tipping Stars. Everyone knows that. Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move. Everyone played that game. It's Mario and Donkey Kong, two very famous characters. I'm gonna guess. Galvin, you have no idea who made this, who directed these games?
And I do not.
You won't recognize the name when I say it. I'm going to talk about Stephen Mortimer. Do you have any idea who this is?
No. This guy, did this guy develop Donkey Kong 95?
No, he didn't, sadly.
Wow.
I'm going to talk about the Donkey Kong games that people do not like very much. But also, now you may be surprised, but this is actually a very famous game designer within a very specific subculture, because I really want to talk about we haven't talked about any sort of live competitive sort of free-to-play games as a service kinds of things. And I was thinking, you know what, we just did the Dan Ferguson episode. I think now is a really good time for Galvin to install League of Legends. I think that would be a really good idea. Not to play League of Legends, but to play the spin-off game Teamfight Tactics, which Stephen Mortimer is the gameplay director for.
Okay. Teamfight Tactics. Okay. Because I want you to understand, what you did basically just now, you just put a gun to my head and you pulled a blank, okay? You almost just killed me just now.
I am so happy to do that.
Teamfight Tactics. Okay, I can handle Teamfight Tactics. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to play League of Legends, thank God. But we are going to play the spin-off game.
Okay.
I saw the face of shock, the fear in your eyes.
I was like, is this revenge for this episode? Like, did I do something to you? And you were like, okay, I had to do violence to you back. Okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay. Understandable. Yeah, you actually may be shocked to find out that I do have history with Steve Mortimer, because I did play Minis on the Move when I was growing up with the DS. That was the DS version of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong one, right? With the little animatronic Marios. That was one of my childhood games. I didn't like it very much, but it was one of my childhood games. So I can't wait to play that and then play Teamfight Tactics and then not play anything else related to the League of Legends universe for the rest of this podcast. Because after all, that's what we're doing, right? We're not doing any more out. We're not doing anything else from the company Riot Games, right?
Yeah, sounds good. I want to, like, aside from just giving Galvin some pain, I thought it would be interesting to talk about like a live service game, and it's also an interesting transition to go from like making Nintendo games with like the mainline games to like a live service kind of competitive game. And he's also like a very open and talkative person with the player base. It's something that I see very rarely in a live service kind of game where there's a figurehead that is sort of communicating with everyone as much as they can to like kind of understand where they're coming from and to communicate their ideas without like having a kind of screen of PR going through them. And he's also one of the very few I want to say like directors for a competitive game where he's actually like one of the higher ranked people. He once got to the challenger rank, which is like the top 100 players in the region, which is something I haven't seen like anyone else do for their game, for their competitive game.
That's challenger rank for Mario versus Donkey Kong.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I thought it might be a little interesting side thing to do if we're gonna keep on going with our very Dan Ferguson was a very different auteur than we were doing before. And this is very different to what we usually conceptualize as auteur, which are usually kind of single player games that are story focused instead of something like competitive like this. Yeah, thought it'd be fun to check out.
This is exciting. We're digging into the weeds because I was afraid we would really just be covering like Miyamoto and stuff like that. So I'm glad we're getting into the deeper cuts. The real stuff. This is what really brings the auteurs to their knees, you know? All right. I'm ready for this. Thank you. I'm glad. All right,
good. But if I did recommend League of Legends, though, would you be prepared for that?
I would shoot you through the computer screen. You would be dead in front of my camera.
Looking forward to it.
To dying?
All right.
After this episode.
Let's sign off. I'm done with this shit.
Enough of this. As always, I'm Galvin.
And I'm Author Function.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.